And any feedback on?
Twitter is on.
Yeah, so's Facebook.
Facebook is live. Twitter is live. LinkedIn, Brent?
Let's see.
Hey, Michael, I can't see the top of your head.
Okay. Well, I wanted to show my shirt.
He wants to show his shirt. That's okay. Michael's top of head is.
I can see it.
Top of my head.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't think LinkedIn is working.
LinkedIn not that.
I don't
LinkedIn
see
was
it on LinkedIn right now.
hacking last time.
And you never get notifications from LinkedIn. I don't know what to do with
I
that.
don't understand that.
Nope, it's not on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, we'll have to fix that later. All right, so we're streaming to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and not LinkedIn, unless someone reports that we are. About to start the Gillmor game. Steve, can I get your head a little closer to the top?
No.
Yeah. What a rebel.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna,
Yeah, but he's a rebel with a cause.
Yeah, rebel with a cause.
no, he's without.
Okay,
cause.
You know
LinkedIn.
why? Because
Not LinkedIn.
Okay, here we go. All right, mute is off. And we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is the Gillmor gang.
it's a Sunday.
That's great. I interrupted Michael Markman telling an obscure story about his shirt.
Ah,
Go ahead, Michael.
All right. This shirt is a tribute to jet air travel. Before the jet age, Major League Baseball was all pretty much on the east side of the Mississippi because you couldn't get from one city to another by train or bus to go to the west. When the Jets came in the mid-50s, baseball expanded. And two of the New York teams, the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants, moved out to California. So the Dodgers used to play in a field called Ebbets Field. Then eventually they were replaced in New York by the New York Mets, who had a field called Shea Stadium. And in the era when naming rights began to be sold and leased, Citibank bought the naming rights to Shea Stadium. So the Mets played in City Park, not Shea Stadium. So my friend Glenn Lambert thought he would make a big joke about that and recall Ebbets Field and take the Citibank logo and create a shirt called Debits Field.
yeah.
He hoped to sell them at the site of the Mets. He didn't sell very many, but I bought a couple because it gives me a chance to tell a very long and pointless story.
yeah, it's a great story.
It's pure Americana.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the way it is.
So, and that's the way it is. It's what is the date? It's in September.
We are.
It is,
It's sometime in September.
but it's still summer.
And the person you just were listening to is Michael Markman. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Glad to be here.
Also joining us is from the framework of Massachusetts is Dennis Pombriant.
I am?
Yeah, clearly.
I've never heard that. What does it mean?
It means anything you want it to.
Well, here I am in my little room.
Did you guys notice that Dennis pulled a power cord when you introduced him?
No.
You didn't. Yeah, you'll have to look at the replay if you missed it.
What was the purpose of it?
I don't know, but it looked like a guitar player's power cord.
I don't
Never
remember
mind.
that.
See, well, I do.
I see. Okay.
I could pull my power cord and it wouldn't matter because I'm on battery.
See, there you go. And jokes, but
Joke.
Excuse me.
Oh, a real sneeze.
Oh, Gesundheit.
that was a fur ball.
Uh, sneeze switch.
Wow.
So the,
People are hooking up with us. Welcome everybody to our broadcasts, our social media output, all of that. Those of you who are
Hello.
joining.
the guy is talking about whatever he's talking about is Frank Radis.
I
Welcome.
spell my name danger.
Oh, he had to get it in.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got. I got no more.
Your doggies.
Maybe you
Nice.
should change this to I got no more instead of Frank Radis.
I got no more.
That way you wouldn't have to say it.
Well, I got plenty, but I don't want to take up the time during this part of the show to even begin to entertain bringing up some of the.
Exposing the Frank Radis executive producer mantra,
Which is,
which is, try and rationalize all of this into and that's the way it is.
God, that is so right. It's funny that you should say that. I don't do that much anymore, but yes, that is so right.
Okay.
Anyway, that's it. I'm done.
Speaking of executive producers, in the state of Atlanta, Georgia, is Brent Leary. Welcome, Brent.
That was a bit of a rough transition. Speaking of executive producers, you go to me.
Well,
Yeah.
You just turn to your wife. It's right in the same room, and you got that. So
Ooh.
that's what she said. So the Segway police evidently have entered the building. So anything you want to say other than,
yeah, sure. Herschel Walker apparently is making a comeback.
What?
yeah, who knew?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how's Stacey Abrams doing?
That's it.
Depressing.
Is it depressing?
Yes.
Only if you
Brent.
think she's going to win.
But before you thought she was going to win, you
I thought there was a good opportunity, but I don't know anymore. It's kind of looking iffy. And
From
Brian
state-
Kemp's coattails might actually help Herschel. Who knows?
Oh, man.
And by the way, happy Labor Day, everybody.
Oh, man. I didn't leave because of that, but I'm staying because of that.
Mm.
what?
I didn't, never mind.
Who left the country?
Yeah.
mm,
That place.
Yeah. I'm gonna come live with you if Trump's
Well, then there's
way
Keith,
back then.
who is torn between two lovers.
So let's have a snap poll. Who's gonna? Is Trump going to be the next president? I know. I can get back to that. Is Trump going to be the next president?
No.
No.
I don't think there will be a next president. I think we're.
Ooh. Wow. Took us down.
Wow.
Wow, that's your Dennis up.
Oh.
Dennis, can I have a vote, please?
Will Trump be the next president? No.
Okay.
Michael.
Michael?
No, he will not. The
Tina?
harder question is, will Biden have a second term?
It's a good one.
Yeah, that is harder. Trump, no. Keith, did Keith say?
I think that question deserves this kind of tone in the answer. No.
Yeah, that's hope springing eternal, evidently.
Here comes the big one.
So that's Keith Tier from the state of Palo Alto, Georgia.
It might as well rain until September. That's it. Carole King writing for Bobby V.
Ooh.
God, she wrote a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Who's Bobby
She
V?
saved all the good material for her own record.
Who's Bobby V? I'm sorry.
Exactly. That's all right.
I'm not
He's-
kidding. Man.
He's even older than me, Brent. And I can't even answer that question because I can't remember.
Oh, yeah.
But
Okay.
strangely, he's not Bobby Vincent, who is another person.
Whom I believe she wrote for.
Bobby V is VEE. You can Google it.
Oh, I thought that was like the initial. Okay.
No.
Definitely lost me on that one.
Vincent.
The polka, the Polish polka thing.
Oh,
But the meaning of the song is that the meaning of the song is that she's so preoccupied with all the good things going on in her life that she doesn't care about the weather. And it might as well rain until September, because who cares about the weather when you're so happy? It was a kind of a happy era song.
I
No
was
one
going to
liked
say, that's a depressing song, man.
okay. So is everybody properly or improperly introduced? I guess so. So at the risk of asking the
Ooh,
fatal question,
Me,
what do you want to talk about?
me. Hi,
Hi,
hi.
and you are?
I think we should talk about the Russians.
Okay, go ahead.
The Russians love their children too.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
Mr. Sting, that's Sting.
No, it was John Kennedy before that at Washington University in DC.
but it wasn't Steve.
Boom. Okay, so
You know, here's the thing. Here's the thing that is interesting to me about the Russians. They don't have much of a playbook. They're just, even Putin right now is just replaying his oldies. I came to that conclusion today reading a story about how the Russians are trying to tell the third world that the United States made monkeypox and is spreading it, despite the fact that it's just not true. They've also said that there are 3 biohazard labs in Ukraine run by the United States. You go back to the 1980s and substitute HIV for monkeypox, and you got the same playbook. The Russians aren't really creative. Now, here's the question: why does it take liberal democracies so much time and effort to shoot down stuff that's such obvious trash? We don't do it domestically. The Democrats are always behind the Republicans, trying to straighten out some factual inaccuracies spread by somebody in power like Trump or a Republican senator. Internationally, we have the Russians failing to care about veracity and truth, stirring the pot. What is it about liberal Democrats that we can't go toe to toe with crazy?
Well, look what happened when Biden tried to go toe to toe with Republican crazy last week in Philadelphia. The thing is, you know, the old line that a lie can get halfway around the world before truth is finished lacing up its boots. I mean, that's the case. The Bannon doctrine, flood the zone with shit. You can't keep up with it. And once people fall into a conspiratorial framework, all denials sound like confirmation. Well, of course they're going to deny it.
Tell us why.
Pardon?
That tells us what, but it doesn't tell us why.
Boy, that's a big question.
I mean, Dennis, do you think it's any different than psyops, basically, what all countries do? I mean, do you think the Russians are worse than, say, we are, or the Brits were, or Chinese? Don't all countries do that?
That's not the question either. In an era when all continents are linked by satellite communications and social media, we need tools to deal with that. And right now, I'd say our tools haven't advanced since the 19th century.
Well, can you imagine tools that might be effective in this world?
I can't. I'm asking you guys if you got any ideas. I think perhaps perhaps the powers that be, people like country leaders, need to step up and start going toe to toe with these rogue leaders like Putin. But that quickly becomes a full-time job, and it's something you can't do and do your day job as the leader of the country.
Well, that might be the answer.
That's not a good answer, though.
Well, I know, but that's how the Bannon doctrine works. If you just keep throwing out stuff, no one has time to swat it all down, and there's an audience for that kind of stuff. We're now in a world where audiences are siloed and pretty much impenetrable. So if you are in the world of 4chan or Fox News or OAN, that's where you are. Hard to talk to those people because they've got their ear muffs on.
I think it's what happens when the world goes into what you could think of as reactive mode. Like if you think of the decades that we've all been alive, there were decades when people looked forward, like the 60s. And there were decades when people, thought the world was going to ruin, like in the 40s and earlier. And then there's decades where everyone's cynical, which I think most people are now. And so you don't really believe anything any government says that much. I don't, anyway, because I'm very cynical. I assume it's all propaganda, basically, no matter which country it is. And that's very different to, say, the 60s, when we were all optimistic about outcomes and good versus evil, and we knew where the line was and so on. So it feels like it's part of the era, Dennis, why Putin gets away with it. The normal person's motivation for challenging this stuff is very reduced. And that's why Trump gets away with what he gets away with, because his audience seems big because everyone's so quiet.
See, I think there's a thematic element to it. As I'm thinking about this, there's no difference between what somebody like Putin or Trump would do and what somebody in an optimistic mood would do, say JFK. The only thing is, the difference is whose narrative, whose theme is assumed. And right now, it seems like there's a very negative theme assumed. But if you go back to the 60s, like you were talking about, there was a very positive theme that was assumed, and it permeated all of society.
Well, remember that the 60s, we were still in the afterglow of having defeated the Nazis. There was something unleashed at the end of World War II that was very positive and uplifting. But it started to peter out in the mid-60s, and turmoil crept in. This is very cyclical. I mean, think back not all the way back to the 60s, but think back to the early 90s when the internet started to become a mass medium. There was huge optimism that everyone would be able to access good, clean information. People would be in touch with each other, and the world would be united in a new way. And instead, in the evolution of internet technology, the world was divided in new ways. So the ability to reach everyone may be there, but it isn't, because of the way algorithms work, the way people's personal preferences work. People tune into what they're interested in.
Oh, but don't forget, we're not talking about an all or nothing situation. The world runs on 51%. You get 51% of anything, you've got things not. Whether it's
not necessarily. There's lots in the world that favors minorities, that favor people who have disproportionate power, either structurally or because of the resources they have. 51% and democratic ideal is a nice theoretical goal, but it doesn't work in the real world.
Oh, I think it does. I think it works.
I was just going to say, Dennis, I think there's no easy solution here, but I don't think it's to do with defeating the Nazis. I think it's more to do with the economic boom. So young people in the 60s were being born into families that were middle class and getting wealthier. And so optimism came from economics as well as politics. And the fact that insofar as there were wars, they were a long way away. Vietnam didn't help. But somehow Vietnam didn't crush optimism. In fact, if anything, it fueled it because of the resistance. So I think economics is a massive part of these cycles. And clearly now, I don't claim to understand economics well enough to break it all apart, but clearly the world economy has moved back into a bipolar world, not a single leader like it was during the US's preeminence. China now, is the growth story, and young people in China are optimistic. They're not that cynical. In fact, they ignore their government because economics drives them more than politics. And so I think economics, politics, and then psychology all are related to each other somehow. And we're in an era where our psychology is somehow not optimistic.
The other thing to consider is that the 1960s might have been an optimistic time, but the background radiation was literally radiation. It was the East-West Cold War.
Yeah,
all of these things
I
are
didn't
layered
know
at the
that.
same time. The downslope and the upslope are both happening simultaneously. The 1950s are seen as a complacent era, and yet in the seeds of the 1950s, there were all kinds of disruption that wasn't quite on the surface. So the civil rights movement began then. The hippie movement began then with the beatniks. A lot of things that turned into very visible dissent by the 60s had their roots in the 50s. A lot of things that turned into very visible
Space program.
by the 60s had their roots in the 50s.
Oh, there's an echo.
I think that's Frank.
In the 60s had their roots in the 50s.
somebody's listening to the stream whilst being on the stream.
Sorry, that was me.
I was gonna say, why do you
I
think
blamed
it was
you.
me?
I blamed
Why?
Frank.
Why?
Because you're so far away. It must
Because
be you.
you're
It was a
dead.
lone
Why?
echo.
I just don't.
It was me. I was trying to leave Tina a comment, and it turned. You can't just leave a comment on Facebook without it turning on the actual sound to the video. So sorry, Frank. It's me. It's all me.
I was thinking about one thing during the course of this conversation that happened in 1975 that was a game changer for communication.
Oh, the Red Sox, the Reds and the Red Sox the World Series. That was 75, wasn't it? The Carlton Fisk deal. That was 75, wasn't it?
That is exactly what I was going to talk about.
I knew it. We went from Devitt's Field to Carlton Fisk. Here we go.
The moral victory. We lost the series.
Oh, that's all right with me.
Waiting for the point, Frank.
So when Jerry Ford was the attempted assassination of Jerry Ford by Squeaky Fromme, of all people, happened, the White House was allowing one network to go out with a live to tape, a video camera as opposed to film camera, which the White House ruled over what kind of equipment you could take on these assignments. And all the film editors were sitting around in a room watching television when they broke in for the first time, like 20 minutes after this thing happened, with this video of this woman's arm being knocked down and a Secret Service guy blocking the firing pin and blah, 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 but the rest is history. But that moment made the White House determine that they must immediately speed up the process of getting every camera in the White House to be a video camera. That really changed communications. That was an important day. And it was the 70s too. Who in the world would have believed that?
Wow.
That's it. That was my point.
I'm glad that you were able to make it here on global television.
So now that we've resolved the world's, situation.
So I'm wondering, Dennis, why you are so down in the aftermath of the U.S. passing the biggest climate bill in our history, in world
That
history.
was, it was Artemis not taking off. That's what it was, right, Dennis?
Why are you tagging me with that? I asked a balanced question.
No, but ups and downs happen simultaneously, and part of it is a question of what you focus on.
Ah.
Oh, well, I read several papers pretty fully, and that was top of mind. That's best I can give you.
So I have a story about rockets taking off.
I hear they do that once in a while.
One of my favorite TV space coverage memories. This is 1967. It is the flight, the mission called Apollo 4, and it's the first test flight of the Saturn V rocket, the Apollo capsule, uncrewed. And in those days, of course, all the networks, by which I mean 3, would send their top anchors down to Cape Canaveral or Cape Kennedy, and they would just sit there and wait for the candle to be lit. And there was nothing to look at except a picture of the rocket in the distance. So they came armed with briefing books and animations and science experts and space experts. And they basically had no idea how long they'd have to wait because you never knew how many holes there would be. So there's Huntley and Brinkley with the Saturn V over their shoulder, having to fill. And Huntley starts going into this rap. And he says,
Really?
I'd like to give you some idea of just how large that rocket is, because I understand that on your TV screens, they all look about the same size. And Brinkley interrupted and said, they all look the same to us too, because the bigger they are, the farther away they put us.
Ooh.
Although he did it like this. He did it like this way. He said, I'd like to tell you.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Because he
I knew
raps it.
I knew it was coming. I just didn't know how bad it was going to be.
See, and I laid back, if you noticed.
Thanks, Frank. I owe you
Yeah.
one.
It is kind of shocking that NASA is having these problems, right? I mean, I watch. Some of you must.
You
watch
got to be
that.
kidding me. It's shocking.
I'm not
Well,
shocked.
Elon Musk lands, boosters on the deck of the launch pad.
In the ocean.
Exactly. It's
So-
like Mr. Rogers, basically.
And NASA can't get it up.
But
That's what she said.
I thought she
I don't
said
have any problem with the missions that got scrubbed. They were hydrogen leaks. You can't test a hydrogen line until right before takeoff when you flood the zone with liquid hydrogen, which is 473 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. And that coldness just exploits any little imperfection or seam. So the fact that they came up with a hydrogen leak, and actually they repaired it and it still leaked, doesn't surprise me.
No,
Right.
and I wouldn't count it as a failure. Count it
why
as a
would they-
success
And
Why would they go that route?
for the power, for the thrust.
In general, I mean, what are they trying to do?
Go to
Well,
the
they
moon.
what do you
mean-
mean? Why are they lifting off?
Why do they have such an extreme framework, pardon the expression?
I mean, why are they using liquid hydrogen
Yeah,
and liquid oxygen?
yeah, because it's big.
No, because it's small. You can't really pack more energy into a tiny space like that with anything other than liquid hydrogen. The first stage of it's a 3-stage rocket. The first stage uses jet fuel and liquid oxygen. The next 2 stages each use liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Hydrogen has a tremendous amount of energy in its chemical bonds, and it burns real easily.
You
So
know,
I-
and that plus we just don't have warp drive yet.
I
Yes.
heard I saw an
Dilithium is really expensive.
I saw an interview with Bill Nelson, who's the incumbent head of NASA.
That's the same as the senator from Washington? Is that the same guy?
No, he was from Florida.
Florida.
Bill Nelson, Major
Um,
Nelson.
I think it's Bill Nelson, but it might be Joe Smith. I forget. I can't see a picture of him, so I might be getting mixed up. But this guy was the CEO of NASA. It was on MSNBC, and it was about 2 days before the first takeoff zone. He was fascinating because most of the conversation was about why NASA still cooperates with Russia when the governments are butting heads. And he gave this very coherent explanation of why space travel can't be national, but has to be cross-national, and talked about the importance of space not becoming militarized. And apparently is very, very committed to continuing cooperation with Moscow. And apparently the two control centers have a permanent conversation between them. It's never turned off, ever. And kind of cooperate on everything. That kind of blew me away. I had no clue that was happening.
Well, did they get into the Russians' decision to withdraw from the space station?
Yeah.
They didn't get into that, but they talked about building something on the moon, and the implication was that it wasn't going to be US only.
Oh, there we go. We're back to optimism.
Well, we'll get some Chinese money to run this.
The Chinese, well, they talked about Chinese. The Chinese won't play. So basically, he made the point that Russia and the States are very close in space, but China is totally separate. And then the interviewer tried to say to him, well, is it because the Chinese are not very good? Are they catching up? He said, no, actually, they're super good. So it's the first time I've met someone that isn't ideological, that is just saying, like, from the point of view of a scientist who knows what he's talking about, what's what. I thought it was fantastic. It's on MSNBC. I don't know if we can find it.
Oh, it's up there, I'm sure.
Just not the rocket.
Well, you know, along with all this, when you're talking about delays, the world record for delays was Alan Shepard's first suborbital flight in, I think it was 1961. It was delayed time and time again for months. And if the equipment had worked right, Shepard would have been the first guy in space, not the Russian, what is it, Yuri Gagarin. But after the flight, at the press conference, the reporter asked Shepard, what went through your mind while you were waiting all that time? And he said, knowing that I was sitting on top of 1 million parts that were all submitted by the lowest bidder.
That's a good one.
But wasn't one of those flights where he was told, because he had to relieve himself, to just go ahead and do it in the suit?
Yeah, I think so. I remember that story.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Do any of you watch For All Mankind? On
Oh,
Apple
that's
TV?
incredible. Incredible.
It feels to me as if reality and For All Mankind are kind of converging. This whole idea of building a permanent base on the moon, of being able to extract water to create oxygen,
yeah.
hydrogen. I haven't been keeping an eye on this stuff, but it seems like what they're planning to do is super far ahead of anything that I realized was going on. And then they use the moon as a base for Mars. And it seems quite real. They really mean it.
Yeah, it'll have to be a staging area for Mars because it's got 1/6 gravity, so you can get a lot of tractor trailer like rockets to get stuff to the moon, and then assemble a much lighter but large vehicle to get you to Mars.
That would take much less propulsion.
Bingo bango, because we still don't have dilithium.
But for those who do
Well,
watch
you
that
know,
show, they're not going to find, when they get to Mars, they won't find a North Korean cosmonaut. I guarantee that.
What?
A
You
North
got to watch
Korean.
the show. It's a spoiler. You've got to watch For All Mankind to get that
Oh,
reference.
well, luckily, won't be watching.
Yeah, it's very good. It really is.
Really?
Yeah.
It kind of isn't sci-fi. It's just really good storytelling. You actually would enjoy it, even though you think you wouldn't, because of how the storytelling's done. It's fantastic.
Well, we're at
I
the
loved,
end.
honestly, there was so
We're
many.
running out of stuff, so but I promise you I won't be watching it.
No, yes, we will. I promise.
No,
we
you
will.
can watch
Oh, no, you got to watch it. What I especially liked was how it began with what you thought was I'm going to spoil something, was the real space race. And that whole scene with the racing the Corvettes on the tarmac. And I mean, it just, if that was then all of a sudden, whoa, what? Oh man, I'm telling you.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. That's it. No more spoilers.
Sounds good.
Here, let me
It
change.
veers.
I
Let's
got
just say that it veers.
It does veer. It veers. But you know what? It's okay. The veers are interesting.
So we're at the era of the end of peak TV.
Say that
Well,
again?
Well, you know,
Well, I mean, you know,
You mean the end of
Times
peak
continue.
network TV or the end of all
Well,
TV?
you know, the notion that we're in an era of peak TV, as they coined it. If that's true, it's over.
So peak TV has peaked.
so
Yeah.
I think it's a definition thing more than anything else. The most important item to me that occurred this week was the discussion that NBC was having, which they've had before, about taking the 10 o'clock hour and giving it back to the local stations. I thought that was an important
So all those
point.
shows that we loved, like ER and all those shows, won't exist in this new NBC environment.
Well, they won't exist on NBC, but they do exist on numerous streaming platforms.
And Peacock, and they can always look. You can say that part of it is because of the demographics watching at that time period, but some of those really good shows are going to they're going to have more opportunity to get picked into the 9 o'clock hour, which, by the way, is that's important.
Frankie,
That's the lead into the local news if news goes at 10.
it's like the UK. The UK, the news kicks in at 9 on one channel, at 10 on another. So basically, peak viewing time in the UK is 8, and then it's over by 9. And my observation is here in California, people go to bed early. Restaurants close the kitchens at 9:30. So there isn't really a 10 o'clock hour anymore anyway.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, Midwest TV schedules has always been an hour earlier than East or West Coast. So
Yeah, that wreaked havoc on those of us who had to, back in the days, had to feed a show for every time period. That was also updated until the end of the time period in LA. And that was a satellite thing. It was crazy to have to do that every single night.
Midwest shows the importance of who gets to name things, because from our point of view, it's the Mideast. And so the East Coast must have named it the Midwest.
I once met an Australian who said, that thing you call the Far East, we call it the Near North.
That's good.
Okay, so let's see. We're going to end early here.
No.
I'll say one thing, which is, speaking as the person who was the skeptic when the January 6th hearings happened, and I think I also, if you went back and looked at, in quotes, the tapes, you'd see that I thought the Democrats were going to get smashed in the midterms. And I kind of started changing my mind during the January 6th thing, and then the abortion thing, then the gun thing. Now I'm thinking that the world is such a different place in such a short period of time. mean, the idea that the Republicans will run away with the midterms seems so far away from likely. Whereas at that time, I thought it seemed very likely. And so there's a massive shift that's happened, driven by some things Biden's done for sure, but also driven by real world events, the backlash against the Supreme Court. It feels like the world has moved to a different place.
And on top of that, have you seen the story that the Republican Senate campaign committee is almost out of money?
I didn't read that, but that's
Yes.
No.
They raised something like $181 million. Yeah, they've got 23 million left, and they spent most of that money trying to attract other donors.
Well, can't Trump use some of his money to help solve that problem?
Well, there's a
Yeah,
problem.
he's rich.
No, I'm talking about that 230 million. That
He could. Do you think he will?
I don't know.
That'll buy you.
I-
That'll buy a lot of crudité, though. I'll tell you that much. If you really go to the market now.
Yeah, that's right. Crudite.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes.
No, yes, I'm going to say for once in a rare opportunity, I'm going to take this opportunity to agree with Keith.
What?
well, it's delayed. I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, I see.
but you were wrong then.
So I have
Look, there goes a pig. It's flying.
Is Trump gonna get hurt with this document story? Is it gonna matter? Does anyone think that
I think
anything's gonna
he's hurt.
change?
I think he's damaged already. It feels to me as if the Republican Party hierarchy would love to dump him. And there's kind of almost like this, the only thing they can do is keep quiet whilst he digs his own grave, but no one's inclined to try to save him or support him or back him. So it's basically Trump and the base, the crazy part of the base, running the show while everyone else is keeping quiet. Why? Because they'd really like him to fail, but they can't say it out loud. And that must mean that from a calculation point of view, they are looking forward to the period in which he's irrelevant and hoping it comes.
I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
There.
the Department of Justice is basically on a rail. Merrick Garland has said he's following the law and pursuing the facts, and that is the rail. There are people pursuing this. I don't know if they want to or not, but they've got law and they've got facts and they have to do it. It's their duty. And these people are very conscientious about their duty. So Trump might be a marlin, but you can reel in a marlin.
Boy, I was thinking exactly that, Dennis, that they had, black and white law. But it seems like there have been times where there has been black and white law and it's been superseded somehow, one way or the other.
Well, with Trump, if you go back to his whole history, it's been every time he's managed to wriggle out, but I don't think he wriggles out of this one.
Okay.
Most of his wriggling came at the behest and with the blessing of a Republican-dominated Senate.
Yes, but even before that, with all of his business issues, and part of it is because he could outspend the people that he was litigating against.
And he could outweigh.
He can't outspend the Justice Department.
That's right, and the Justice Department will wait and do what it has to do. So, I mean, I've been loving it with the court filings, and every time Trump makes some stupid ass statement, pardon my French, DOJ just makes a filing, adds a photograph to it, and all of a sudden we've got 3 days worth of news cycle.
Garland, when he made his first statement after the FBI search, he said, "The Justice Department speaks through our court filings." Said nothing else. And Trump is giving them every opening to to do another court filing. And I think part of what we're seeing is a public relations campaign where Garland, because he's able to make these court filings, is acclimating the country to what's going to happen. So it's not going to be a sudden, where did this come from? Everybody is following along step by step. And when the indictment comes, based on polling, most people will be happy about it.
I think you're right.
What does an indictment look like with the ex-president? I mean,
We don't know. We've never seen one.
I know.
I hope it involves a perp walk.
Man, it's funny. I just had that same image, but it was fleeting, because it's like, okay, Mr. President, you can sit here, just wear this ankle bracelet. No, you can't go more than 30 feet. 30 feet is over there where the dog is taking a leak, right? No, you can't.
A jumpsuit to match his hair.
What is this? Have you seen his hair go gray?
It's orange.
Yeah, it's interesting. There have been some very unflattering photographs taken of him of late. I can say
Really?
that. Yeah, more than normal.
Yeah, the photographs are catching up with the photoshops.
It seems to. I mean, I try to make sure I look and say, has that been touched? Let's see what the interweb says.
So Biden will run for a second term, I think, but his health's probably the only thing that would stop that, which is, every now and then you see him in a less lucid moment where you can tell his brain isn't connected to his mouth, which doesn't seem to happen that often, but it does happen.
It's been happening for 60 years. I grew up in Delaware, believe me. It ain't that far off from what was going on back in the day.
So you think?
He's got a couple of issues. One is he does tend to blurt and get ahead of what's appropriate to say. And the other is that he has a lifelong stuttering problem. So
he's also got a copper
he
coil.
really has to he always has had to put a lot of effort and attention into speaking. And you might interpret that as being some form of cognition problem, but it's really, he's working so hard to avoid stuttering.
Yeah.
I think Tina's given us the signal.
No, I'm kind of surprised that to feel this shift among the six of you. And I'm feeling it too, but it seems a little, I don't know. I'm afraid to be so optimistic about it. I feel like we've kind of been here before, but I was discussing this with Steve probably a few nights ago and saying, how does he get out of having confidential or top secret documents in his desk? Like, how? You can't say, I didn't know that they were there. It's not my desk. I just don't know how he gets out of that. And yet history says that he'll get out of it.
Yeah, but when you're, sitting at your desk, eating a bucket of KFC, you need something to read. I mean, you're sipping on your Diet Coke, you're getting a nice chicken wing, and you need a little top secret information to read.
You need something to wipe your hands on.
Okay.
But Tina, it's actually worse. It's actually worse than that, because they found 46 or 48 empty folders.
Where's that stuff?
So he may have returned those documents without the folders.
That was
But
the
right
napkins. That were the napkins. That's all.
Right now we've got this big divot. We've got 48 unaccounted for top secret or secret documents.
18-minute gap.
Look, Bill Barr went on Fox News last week to say he's got nothing to stand on. So if Bill Barr is turning, who's left?
That dude. he picks a fine time to start telling the truth after he's out of the line of fire.
Oh, yeah, he's building his legacy.
So if,
Second.
if this does end up crushing Trump, because there's just too much doubt about him, and even some of those middle people, aren't gonna be okay with nominating him. He doesn't end up being the nominee for the Republican Party. Who does the Republican Party then get in bed with and support?
Oh man, it's a no-brainer right now. It's DeSantis, and
Absolutely.
and
Agreed.
he's worse than Trump. He's like Trump that with some brain cells.
And do you think that DeSantis will have the same aura, power, interest to that MAGA crowd that Trump will, or is the MAGA crowd really just Trump's crowd?
I think it is, and I don't think it matters whether he has that aura about him, because I don't think at that point it matters. Once the die is cast.
Most
Yeah.
Americans have not heard DeSantis speak. A lot. When you listen to him, he is far from an inspiring orator. He sounds like a little dweeby bean counter.
Yeah.
Yeah, his speech waffles between whiny and bland. He's just not an impressive orator at all.
Right. And there are plenty of women on Saturday Night Live that can do that.
Yeah, but it really doesn't
Whiny and
matter. That doesn't matter, because Trump is not going to let anybody, even if they say no to Trump and DeSantis is the one that they choose, Trump is gonna take his ball and go home. He's not gonna be. You think he's gonna be out there stomping with DeSantis? Are you kidding?
No, absolutely not. But remember, Trump is not simply an individual. Trump is a constellation of people who hitch their wagon to him for their own purposes and to meet their own agenda. So there's this entire MAGA universe that accepted Trump as their leader, but this MAGA universe will continue to have their own agenda, and they will easily migrate over to DeSantis.
Easily migrate?
The thing is that as several of you have said, DeSantis himself is not going to inspire the base the way that Trump did.
Still running around with Trump Pence 20, and they scratched out Pence, but they are still in Trump trust. Those folks are not just going to easily there is some. You got to give this dude something. I don't get it. How all these. I'm not going to call people like bumpkins or anything, but these folks who are the middle country, and they're in the farmland, in the heartland. How the hell do they think that he has their back? He would rather die than to spend more than a week in a car in somebody's farm. I mean, but yet still they think that he's our kind of people.
No.
I think
I don't get it, but he's a.
Well,
Let me offer you a different reading of that situation. It's not that they think that Trump is their tribune, at least in any positive sense. Trump is a disruptor, and the people you're talking about have been oppressed, if I can use that word, for decades by what they would call elitists on the coasts. What they really mean is that the excessive financialization of our economy has taken their jobs away, stripped them of their land. I mean, for example, Monsanto has some really good seeds for, I don't know, soybeans and stuff like that prevent bugs, or potatoes, especially potatoes, that kill bugs. And the pollen from a field with Monsanto soybeans can go anywhere, and it can go to a neighbor's field, and pollinate those crops. And all of a sudden you've got a mutant crop that is healthy, but it now has the Monsanto patented insecticide built into its DNA. Monsanto goes after those farmers and makes them pay for using its crops or its technology. And that's been held up in court after court after court. Farmers go broke trying to deal with that. That's just one example of how the over-financialized economy is beating up on these people. I get why they want to disrupt the government, because the government's not doing anything for them. It's not sticking up for them when they want. That's why they care about Trump. They care about Trump.
Yeah, I agree. It's not that Trump is helping them, but they're hoping that Trump will hurt their enemies.
Even worse. That makes it even worse because he was the president for what, 4 years? And did any of that change? And did he do anything to address that? And yet and still, they're out there with their Trump /Pence signs.
Sure.
And we're all in with MAGA. And he didn't do a damn thing. And he'll never do a damn
They don't
thing.
pay attention to that. They don't pay attention to that.
Well,
I
they
think
get what they get. It's
I think
unfortunate for them.
that
We also keep reading about all of the farmland that Bezos and Gates have bought up. Who'd they buy it from, and what happened to the people that they bought it from? Does anybody know about that?
Sounds like a
heard of
movie
it.
plot.
Let me chime in with something that that Jim Armstrong from our one of our viewers, one of our longtime viewers says, and let me ask for a poll. He says that Trump will be indicted just after the midterms.
I could see it.
Yeah, I see that, I guess.
I agree.
If it's going to
I think
happen.
that's
the right
likely.
time. Yeah.
And I've seen. I mean, that's certainly one of the strands of speculation that's going around there. That if there's a time to do it, that's the best time to do it.
So
Michael, yes. Dennis.
I think there are two things that are going to happen. I think our viewer is on to something. I think there could be an indictment. The other thing that I would say is in the offing is in the new Congress, if the Democrats do well in the Senate, there would be an attempt to impeach Samuel Alito.
Brent, what do you think? Indictment after the
Oh yeah, I said I think I could see that happen. Yeah.
So the timing, that sounds right to you. Steve, what do you think? Indictment, yes or no, and after midterms, yes or no?
No and no.
Oh, no. And Keith?
I can't really judge it because these indictments are the detail is all about the law. But if he is indicted, it isn't really going to be for what he's guilty of in the big picture. He's going to be indicted for something less than that.
Something mundane, really
Yeah.
mundane stuff. Yeah.
So it's kind of a sideshow to me and a distraction. I think back to Tina's question earlier, what's changed to me is the public opinion of the issues. And that is the strongest change of all. I think it's women's rights, and I think it's gun-related stuff, and I think it's Trump and democracy. I think all of those are fairly substantive.
The data supports that. If you look at the Kansas vote on abortion rights, that was just it cut across. It wasn't about personality. It was just about the issue, and what were they going to be able to do about it? If it's going to move back to the states having control, okay. That's
So that there's additional data which has to do with the surge of women registering to vote in Kansas.
Everywhere.
Yes, but more in Kansas than elsewhere because of the pending ballot issue. So there was an urgency to do it there. the New York Times ran a survey that showed this surge, and it was huge. They went pre-Dobbs decision and then post-Dobbs decision, and a huge jump. And of those people registering post-Dobbs, they tended to register more Democratic than before Dobbs.
I can even tell you what the date of the indictment will be.
Oh,
January 5th, 2023.
Aha. That's a good one.
Yeah, okay.
Why?
It's 1 day short of 2 years after the insurrection.
Oh, a symbolic kind of date.
Yeah.
But arguing against that, I don't think that that Garland will want to make a politically symbolic gesture in
Yeah,
indicting Trump.
I'm just playing with you.
You know something? I think that if you're talking about a symbolic gesture, this thought has to be going through the former guy's head that he looks like a loser. He knows he's going to lose. So what does this low-ranking indictment give him? Gives him an excuse to stop campaigning, so that he now no longer has to say that he couldn't get out of it. It wasn't bad health. It was his mind he's been distracted. So he's using the biggest distraction to create a distraction to distract.
Wow.
That's a good one.
That was really meta, Frank.
Well, Trump is really bad.
I'm trying to play 3D chess here, guys.
I'm liking it.
So I think way back a minute 23, Brent, you said you had something that you wanted to talk about. Do you remember what that is?
Yeah, you said it right. It was a long time ago. But anyway, I think I remember. Actually, there are two, but maybe I'll just limit it to one. Did anybody watch was it Rings of Power?
Yes.
No.
Oh, okay. So
Which one is Rings of Power?
it's the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
Amazon Prime $1 billion investment in doing a prequel to The Lord of the Rings.
25 million people apparently watched the first night, which was Amazon's record for.
Yeah, but how many of them watched the whole thing?
I have no idea. Amazon.
Amazon doesn't care. I don't know.
My question is, how do they get a return on $1 billion investment in this program? Where's the money come from? They're going to sell merchandise, sell books, sell Tolkien books?
yes.
Yeah. No,
Well,
they're
they're
just
already doing
everything in the economy.
Prime memberships.
It's free
But
shipping.
who is not on Prime already?
Globally, it's the global play.
Yeah, but they're not making the money from who is on Prime. They're making the money from the free shipping of the stuff that Amazon takes a cut of.
I understand that, but
So
that's why the free shipping is why I stay on Prime, not The Lord of the Rings. I'm just wondering what's the bookkeeping there? How do they ascribe income to this investment? What are the revenues that they book against it?
Yeah. How do they do that?
it's a perk.
What is?
Oh, that's for me. But how do they calculate it? What's their bookkeeping on this?
Well, there's a guy that Frank knows who he has a mysterious pronunciation of the word Shapiro, and right, it's Shapiro, right?
Yes, it is Shapiro.
Okay.
Yes.
And he has the benefit of my second all-time subscription to a newsletter.
Wow, that's amazing to hear.
It really is true. The other one is Ben Thompson, Stratechery, mispronounced as whatever they pronounce it as. And he has a, what do you call it, webinar that he recorded with his subscribers. which is about 45 minutes. The last 15 minutes of it is just a huge home run because he just ties together things that he talks about that I don't quite understand or buy about the importance of local television, which I've never understood why that's important. And the key thing is churn, basically. What he is saying is that there have to be these, and I'm going to not do it justice, but he does. And the cost of it is, as he suggests, you can just sign on for like $5 or whatever it is for the first month, and then watch the thing and then leave, and you will have earned your investment. So the basically what it comes down to is bundles across things that people are unwilling to leave. In other words, unwilling to churn from. And
like ESPN.
Yeah, but all of these different players add up to certain capabilities that if you had this plus this feature or this capability, sports is one of them. Another of them is, I'm not going to explain it to you. I've just,
but that's
No, but you know what?
No,
I
no,
get
no,
it.
this is
Even though you
something-
haven't explained it, I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
exactly. I got it at the end, and I sent him a comment on his Substack saying that this was I said in the comment what I just said to you, and I said the last 15 minutes is worth the price of my subscription.
No, I mean, any subscription-based service or product has to deal with churn. And people
Yes, but
cancel their cable all the time. People cancel their subscriptions to streaming, to newsletters all the time. And the question is, can you hold them? Can you bring them back? In the
Okay,
early
so-
days, they used to use the word sticky. What is it that's going to keep people
So the answer
engaged
to
in
your
sending you a
question,
monthly fee?
the answer to your question, which is how do they justify this? How does Prime justify this? Is it'll cost you $5.
Uh,
Keep a subscriber versus $100 to.
It's a series of overlapping bundles. That is what we are in the throes of moving from whatever the current lack of peak TV scenario is alive. I mean, this is something that Keith has talked about months ago on this show. We're in a phase now where the large media players are either going to be disrupted or they're going to be successful. And you can read between the lines of this report that he gives. You can see exactly who's going to survive this shakeout of subscription. It's a combination of subscription and advertising, as Netflix and Disney Plus have gathered enough subscribers together so that they can then move to a third, less costly ad tier.
Well, Disney Plus Disney is already, there's an article I think I posted this week, I don't know, that they're talking about doing their own form of Prime, like some sort of a Disney Prime where you get the Disney Plus bundled in with some benefits for going to, I guess, Disney World properties or buying Disney
Yeah,
World.
they're trying to create a membership tier.
Yeah, they're trying to do
and,
Amazon Prime. See that?
Yeah.
It's funny how this kind of started out with maybe a little bit of skepticism around Amazon spending $750 million on Lord of the Ringdings or whatever it's called. But the whole idea is Amazon has got the model that everybody's going to be. There is something that Walmart is trying to do, some sort of a Prime thing. It's because you've got subscribers and you have the ability to stay connected with them and offer them more and more things that keep them, in your ecosystem. it's a lot less expensive to do that than it is to try to constantly be on the lookout for new folks that you have to try to wine and dine and bring them on.
I have a
I
thing
just-
about the Walmart invention for a moment because you mentioned it. It's like this thing that's bugging the back of my mind that says something's going to happen there. I mean, if you took a Disney and you tried to say, I'm going to give you a membership and you can have access to the theme parks and you can have a free room on the boat once every 3 years and yada yada yada. And you get Disney Plus and ESPN and all whatever else is bundled in, versus I'll make every product in the world available to you through Walmart. Plus, I'll give you this video thing that will bundle all of these video channels together. I think there's something to that Walmart deal that we haven't heard about. Why would it even be something?
There's no reason not to do both.
I just found him, by the way. I just found Evan Shapiro on Substack.
It's Shapiro. It's Shapiro.
Evan
You say
Shapiro.
Shapiro and I say Shapiro.
I don't know why, but I was doing Google for Michael Shapiro, and obviously that's the wrong person. So I subscribed to some random person called Michael Shapiro, and then realized it was nothing to do with anything we were talking about. So
What's the guy running for governor in Pennsylvania again? What's his? How do you pronounce?
Mastriano.
No, not that one. The guy he's running against.
Oh,
I think his name is Shapiro, but now after hearing you guys, I'm not sure.
The Secretary of State,
Yeah,
Josh
that
somebody.
Josh, I think it's Shapiro, or at least I thought it was Shapiro. Anyway,
I'm just happy to hear, Steve, that you've like Evan's stuff. It's always very. He's an entertaining guy and a really
Yeah, but I
smart
haven't
person.
bought the text. Doesn't really work for me. It's not specifically what he's saying. Clearly, what he's saying is what he says on this webinar. It's the accumulated momentum of what he does. I said the last 15 minutes in the comment is, the whole ball game, and he replies saying, "Well, then I'll just cut the first 30 minutes." And I responded to him saying, "No, that's the setup."
It's funny. He's a television producer. I actually think that that some of his ideas are bizarre, but he is what's called he calls himself a media cartographer. So here's a guy that will create these interesting graphically designed they would be like the pie charts of the 21st century. They're really bizarre. Shows you the size of all the various media companies against the others. It's the entire universe of media companies and their relative values. And then he'll give all sorts of other charts that will show where AVODs are and where SVODs are and where the two meet. And he actually takes his comments or his ideas and he turns them into images, which is really smart.
And that's a good loss leader for getting him on the radar. You publish his charts on your newsletter frequently. That's how I became aware of him. And then there was this discussion about local that he did in something once that I read once I had subscribed, and I just didn't agree with it and didn't get it. And then there's this 45-minute webinar, and I'm not a big fan of webinars either. It's like a podcast, only one to many. And all of a sudden, he answers the local question pretty good, not that much, and then he goes into the meat of what it takes. Essentially, I hate to trivialize it by suggesting that I can remember how he constructs this, but basically, if you have two overlapping audiences, that's the beginning of the power center of this transition. If you have three, you're basically, it's impossible to disrupt you. And there are probably 4 or 5 different power centers that are emerging that have 3 things. So, you know, in the newsletter world, the thing that Substack is doing is basically they started by giving out contracts, essentially, like a record company, to certain writers who are working for mainstream publishers, and then also augmented that with legal help and a health care package for the writers that they brought over into this environment. Last week, they basically announced that they're dropping all of that. Mostly, I think, because they are concerned with their runway in term as a VC investment, and trying to find the sweet spot which will keep them going. And I think that what they're realizing is they've already built an environment that is attractive to the people that are going to come along and be really good at this kind of newsletter strategy. And they don't need to augment it with this, the promise of money so much as the promise of a viable audience and community that creators, producers can flock to. And I think they're being successful at that. So what is happening, I think, is that you're going to see, we're already seeing it in terms of the mainstream cable media. There's a guy named Tim, I forget his name. He's a Republican operative, Tim Miller, who has his own Substack, or he's part of a larger subsite, if you will. I forget I forget the name of the parent organization, but he also is a contributing editor or a contributor to MSNBC. So he's developing in 2 medias. He's kind of straddling this, and he will become representative of a certain type of talent that crosses over between the media companies that are trying to survive now, CNBC, MSNBC, or CNN. He's got a brand for himself, and now he can go over and monetize that in a Substack environment. There's going to be a lot more of that, I think. And that's why Substack is taking this approach. But in terms of the political conversation, for example, Tim Miller suddenly becomes a fairly major voice, because Rachel Maddow is basically only on once a week. What are they going to do for the rest of it? They have to develop these substars, if you will, that people are interested in where well thought out political analysis is going. And we've got these midterms coming up, and they're going to do well.
I think it's very hard for the Rachel Maddows of this world to compete with what's happening. It feels like the platform she's on, MSNBC, has represented the past for quite a long time, but now the future is accelerating. And so what you see people like Kara Swisher doing, or this guy Evan Shapiro, or Matt Taibbi, and lots of others, Andrew
I would
Sullivan.
disagree about Matt Taibbi, but go ahead.
Well, that's just a taste thing. But what they're all doing, it represents a use of the tools that are now close to free and proliferating, that enable the audience, people like us, to engage with good content via mechanisms that are directly under the control of the creator. And I think it's very early. I don't think anyone's threatened yet, but you can see the writing on the wall. You can see where it's going. And it feels to me as if what we're doing here with Zoom and Restream is part of that, because there's no real limit to the media types you can do this with, or how real time it can be, or how live it can be. So the world is your oyster in a sense. It's like, are you interesting? Like you, Mike, I didn't really know you very well. Now you're doing this Substack. And I said last week, you're a really good writer, but
Oh,
now
yeah.
I also understand where you're coming from. And you have an audience, I'm sure, small initially, but you compare Rachel Maddow to anyone here on the gang. I don't think she's heavily scripted. I find it boring to listen to be honest, because she's so scripted.
Well, she writes her scripts, though.
Yeah, but I don't like people who read a script that they've written. I prefer someone who can just think aloud and converse. I don't know. That's just me. It's a taste thing. She's great. Obviously, she's very talented, but I don't like that style. But there's a lot going on here. And Substack's just a symptom. They can benefit. By the way, they did 100 million of money going through last year, of which they got about 9 or 10 million of that for themselves. And I saw a benefit.
By the way, someone tweeted this morning, Substack's gross revenue was 100 million. OnlyFans had 4.8 billion.
4.8 billion.
So that's where the audience is.
Well, clearly sex trumps intellect, mostly.
You had to
Even for
use
intellect.
Trump in there to do.
But someone, by the way, fixed that. Said Substack gross revenue 100 million. OnlyFans really gross revenue 4.8 billion.
That's great.
So my recommendation is subscribe to this thing. If you can't find the webinar, say something in the comments of the gang Substack, and I'll point you at it. And then when Evan Shapiro has done his magic, you'll be looking at this whole space in a slightly different way than you have up until now.
Steve, can you elaborate a little bit on the commenting function in Substack, and that it's relatively new, I believe, right?
Well, there's a new extension of it called Threads, which we're not participating in. They're in an early pilot on it, but you can set up, when you release your Substack, you can set up, there's a checkbox in the settings where you can say that the comments are visible to anybody or to subscribers. And since by subscribers, they mean a free subscription, it's free. Anybody who's basically in the system will be not only able to see, but also to contribute these comments. So if you go to, I don't know what the address is, gillmorgang.substack.com, and put a comment in, I'll see it. And if you have the Substack iOS reader, not only that, but I'll get a notification when you make the comment.
Lower thirds.
This is a
I
good
see all
place-
these.
This is a good place for Gillmor Gang conversations in between shows.
Well, I think that's
about
what-
shows.
That's what
about-
Threads
posts.
will start to do that.
Mhm.
They've got 3 or 4 or 5, large Substacks that are contributing to the pilot. The one that I have subscribed to is Cynicism. Is that the name?
Yeah.
Which is about China. And since Keith insists that we're all doomed to the threat of China, I've started to read it, much like tracking the Russians atop Lenin's tomb in an earlier era. And it's very good. And he was recommended by Ben Thompson of not Substack, but another newsletter author. And
And
so
Ben Thompson lives in Taiwan, right?
I believe so, yes.
So he's obviously, it's super important to him to understand China.
I just got that it's cynicism, like play on cynicism. Okay.
Yeah, like
I'm a little late.
yeah, I mean, it's a nascent, I mean, basically, Substack and Twitter are competing, and because of the Elon Musk scenario, Twitter, who's never been known for being able to follow through on much of anything, has, I think, been slowed down. They're doing a lot of really interesting things. We're doing some Twitter Spaces in order to record conversations about this sort of I think it's called backstack. You know, how these tools are being constructed together and used, independent startups like Restream that Keith was talking about. And, you know, if you put all these tools together and you start to have a very interesting toolkit with which to be able to enter a community where, rather than the publisher owning access to the community, it can be shared among the people in the community. And I think that's the strength of it.
I remember when I first moved to the States, Esther Dyson was doing a printed newsletter called Release 1.0. And she built a PC Forum as an event around that. And so if you think about the characteristics of the personalities and the tools, it isn't really that anything new is happening at the level of creators doing stuff, because Release 1.0 was fantastic. It was really well done with good writers talking about metadata before anyone was talking about metadata and so on. And PC Forum became a community. A lot of the people I know today, I first met at PC Forum. And I think what's happened is that the world now makes it easier to do that stuff. And it's interesting that no one's yet gone as far as Esther did in who they become through using the tools, but people are going to. You're going to start to see not just newsletters, but you're going to see events, communities, all kinds of stuff building up around this. Even commercial newsletters for enterprise clients. I mean, it's so easy to create a writing environment that you have to pay to get into on either an annualized fee basis or a one-off publication basis. You know, why would you use Word and write reports and print them out and sell them to your clients when you could be if you become the source, for example, in Dennis's case, if you became the source for impact and sustainability, and you wrote behind a paywall and charged appropriate to the impact of what you're writing to clients who trust you, I don't see why this doesn't just proliferate as you know, in all kinds of different ways that we don't even see today.
You know, the pandemic has accelerated this kind of virtual conferencing, not the model of whatever that company was that you were talking about months ago, but at a not at a structural level, but at the ability to be able to connect with people and create relationships that you can sustain under your own network is you know, I think if we get to the understanding that comes from my recommendation to look at this Evan Shapiro post, you'll see that there's a path for you know, establishing low numbers of churn resistant services.
Yeah.
It's a lot like the RSS wave 20, 30 years ago. Nobody got rich. but a lot of people got to be able to. I mean, I came from writing for Byte magazine to writing a back page column for InfoWorld, precisely because I was lucky enough to be able to contact an editor in the middle of the night and say, you know, I've got something for you. He was talking about something about AREX, which was a IBM Rex methodology, scripting language. And it was also developed on the Amiga. And I looked in the phone book. Remember phone books?
Yeah.
And
remember Amigas?
yeah, and the editor was online on the phone. I called him around 11:30 on a Sunday night, and he said, "Sure." What we're seeing with this technology substrate is the ability to be able to do that as an independent from wherever you are in this work from anywhere environment. And it may not be appropriate for all businesses, but in the media business, it's definitely appropriate.
So it's always the same game all the way around. You have to attract creators. You have to attract an audience. That's and the means and methods keep changing, but the game is always the same.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised though if a lot of really good creative people shied away from Substack because of its arcane rules and regulations and things that you have to fill out. I mean, you can do a very simple thing, but to really take advantage of what it does, you need to know how to operate that.
In terms of reaching large numbers, YouTube is still a tremendous platform, and anyone can get into it, and cream rises. The top YouTubers have millions of followers and make millions of dollars.
Yeah, there is that.
Keith is muted.
Sorry, my dog was barking, so I was trying to protect you all from it. I was going to say, if you think about what we do with YouTube, with Facebook, with LinkedIn, with Twitter, with Restream, and with Substack, if what we're doing is interesting to millions of people can access it. So now it's on us. It's like, now our goal isn't to be interesting to millions of people, I guess, but as the world changes, there are times when you become important. And now when that happens, the audience is there, easily accessible for free, more or less. So I don't think there's any real challenge to scale anymore. It's just, are you relevant, and who to, and do those people know you exist? And if they do, they can access you in whatever way they choose, actually. So it is kind of amazing.
Sure, and this whole universe comes with recommendation engines. So you see anything you like, you can share it and promote it on any number of media that you have a following on.
Frank, what did you say shit about?
That you actually had to have a position, something to think about and something to say. That's all.
It was a self-detrimental joke about his characteristic of being a surfer on the news as opposed to an opinion former. But I disagree with that. I think you do have
I do, and I occasionally let it come out. My opinion is also reflected in the choice of things that I put up on that anyway. But it's something that I have become really fascinated with, and as you all know, I've just so dived into it and continue to do it 7 days a week, every single day at exactly the same time. but I'm starting to get frustrated with my sort of level of interest and engagement that it's not growing big enough. And I put it everywhere, but that's a story for another day about how to self-market stuff that you think is worth.
That's the
self-marketing.
bigger story, because everybody that is looking at doing this, that's what they want. And it gets harder and harder for you to get that when everybody else decides that they can do it too. I mean, that's just that's the thing that.
But that's the reality of it,
Yeah, I mean, the show business, the media business, and the publishing business is always a funnel. There's always a lot of people coming in at the top and very few making it through. Go back to the long tail model. There are hits, and then there's a long tail, and it's not that easy to climb out of the tail up to the. No,
it's not. I'm also though happy that I can boast a very loyal and intelligent and highly placed media executive clientele, subscribers.
Leadership.
I've got some really good people. So the question for me is, I'm happy to have the quality, but I'd sure like the quantity. That's the old TV guy.
What do you want the quantity for? What does quantity give you? Because if you got this great quality that 99% of the people can't get, why is it important to have the quantity as well?
Well, as I said a moment ago to Michael, it's the old TV guy in me. That's absolutely all it is.
Well, transcend that.
Okay, I'll do it.
So my take on this is that in this world, less is more. So like Andrew Kingtree trying to get me to do a daily version of That Was the Week. And I even got the domain name That Was the Day or something. But the more I would do that, the less time I'd have to think. And by the time I wrote something daily, I don't think I'd have enough depth to say something interesting every day. Whereas if I reflect on a week, usually there's themes that emerge from what happened in the week, and you can kind of take a couple of hours and think it through. So I think if you are contributing to thought, because it isn't really about, I don't think it's really about having goals beyond being useful to somebody else as they think things through. So if you're useful to somebody else, then you should give it your best thought. And in your case, you have these fantastic stories every day. I read them, and I can tell you get up in the morning and you're on it. It'd be interesting to say, what would happen if you didn't do that? What if you sat on it for a week and used Twitter instead of publishing the daily stuff, just put it on Twitter or Telegram, and then once a week reflect on it. I bet you anything, your experience and your value and who you know and what you know would become super valuable to people.
Well, how many people are watching right now? That was a lesson in marketing and business worth listening to, Keith. Absolutely. Now, will I do it?
Because you enjoy the daily thing. You like the routine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, Dennis, anything?
Not really. Happy Labor Day tomorrow, everybody.
Okay, Michael.
Enjoy what's left of your weekend. It's a longer weekend than usual.
Frank.
Yes.
Tina.
I'm looking forward to the Tuesday Apple event. And I'm looking forward to the Emmys come next weekend, I think.
Yes, Get Back swept the Emmys.
I already found out that a friend won an Emmy.
Actually, my friend Eve Kay, she does the Tucci food show that's on CNN. They won for the second year in a row. She just put it on Facebook this morning.
Yeah.
Is that your final thought, Keith?
My final thought is me and Jenny watched a delightful movie last night called Mrs. Fill in the blank, because I can't remember the name, Goes to Paris, which is a British movie with Isabelle Huppert in as well. Fantastic light comedy relief for 2 hours of pure joy.
And where was that available?
Apple TV. You had to buy it for $20 because it's not available to rent yet.
Is
But
that the
fanta-
one who goes to Paris to make a dress or?
Yes. It's really, I mean, it's soppy, but it's so well done. It's you have to not be too serious, but it's very entertaining.
And Brent.
I think I texted the group a PDF of this magazine, has a weird title, something about creator, but the thing that caught my attention was the article by the editor-in-chief at the very beginning. It talked about how TikTok was really having a negative impact on creators in comparison to some of the other social platforms. It's a really interesting read, and it made me think about. I think that the catchphrase was, "You don't hear people on TikTok saying like, subscribe, and hit the notifications button," because there's really none of that stuff. There's no way to cultivate a community around you very easily, because the videos that get put in front of people are mostly driven by algorithms, whereas on YouTube and the other kind of networks, that's all you hear is people saying that, because they are able to kind of drive their videos more and more deeply into actual people. And so it's really interesting to read that and think about how the TikTok approach kind of feels like the Amazon marketplace approach, in the respect that you can sell on Amazon, but you don't own the customer relationship because you don't own the customer data. And it kind of feels like TikTok is kind of taking that approach to building their platform, which is pretty interesting read. So something you guys might want to check out.
There are TikTok creators though that promote their TikToks on Twitter and on Facebook.
On Twitter and on Facebook. That's exactly the point.
Okay, can you, Keith, what's the address of the Telegram feed so you can post that? You can't, the Zoom chat is not visible to.
No, I texted it because it's a PDF file, and I don't know if it's.
No, you can
I
put
got it
PDF.
through a back channel, so I don't know if I can.
All right, well, Keith, can you paste it into the Telegram feed?
T.me/
But only if Brent gives me the link.
I texted the link in our group text, but I didn't want to put out in public.
Oh, okay. Group text, iMessage, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Just click the chat button on the Zoom interface and you'll see it.
So everyone can go to t.me/Gillmor gang to find that.
Yeah.
I didn't put it there. I put it in I'm talking about actual iMessage group
Yes.
text. Yeah, that's where I put it. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it is now in t.me/Gillmor gang.
Yes, I just got a notification.
Because
Okay.
Keith here is a criminal.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't
Okay.
blame me.
I will blame you. Thanks to our producer and director, Tina Chase Gillmor.
All right. Great show. Enjoyed it.
And wait a minute. And your parting thoughts?
I already did mine.
So you did?
Did you talk about the Apple event?
And
Okay.
looking forward to the Apple event. Yeah,
Who's going to buy the new iPhone?
I might.
I don't even have to, even if it's a piece of shit, I'm buying it.
Wow. Okay.
Well,
I
didn't buy the 13 for the first time. So I'm ready for the 14.
I'm on the 11.
I did buy the 13, so I think I will skip the 14, but I might buy the new watch.
How come?
What the features are.
I can't tell you that. I said might, and I'm going to see what's in it.
Good enough.
But because my current watch is getting a little long in the tooth.
The
So
I-
resale value of Apple stuff is roughly 80% of what you paid for it. So
Wow.
That ain't bad.
I imagine our next show will be filled with some Apple event recaps or not recap, but
Analysis.
talk.
Yeah, and if you guys are available, maybe we'll do a Twitter space in conjunction with it so we can discuss it in real time.
That sounds good.
All right, well, we'll see. Thanks to everybody who showed up and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.